Welcome to the agenda with me, Lasha Kingsley in Douala, Cameroon. On today's edition of the program, we are focusing on the recent announcement of visa restrictions by the United States Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, on certain individuals who are blocking the peaceful resolution of the crisis in the northwest and southwest region of the country. And we are glad to have with us today attorney and counselor at law, Barrister Aneneba Innocent, who is joining us from New York. Stay with us. Don't go away. Thank you so much, Barrister Aneneba Innocent, live in New York. It's a pleasure having you on the program.
The pleasure is mine, sir, and nice to be with you on your show today.
This is the very first time we are having you on this platform, and we are glad, Barrister. And can you briefly walk us through your professional and probably academic background?
Yes, as you rightly said in your intro, I am an attorney and counselor at law at the great state of New York. I'm also an author with the book The Land We Leave Behind, which is a chronicle of our history, our civilization, and all our sufferings. I hold a double master's in law. I'm a very family-oriented and a person of faith. Faith, not just Christianity, but faith in our culture and our cultural institutions. And I love to work for the poor, for those who are defenseless. And my biggest passion is always to see the black man emancipated, because what we dream of and talk about all through, there's never been real emancipation of the black man of Africa, and of course the black person in all other races in humanity. So in brief, that's who I am, and hopefully we get to know each other much better okay. On different days.
Thank you so much, Barrister. On June 7, 2021, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced visa restrictions for certain individuals believed to be those undermining the peaceful resolution of the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Why visa restriction, and what are the other options, Barrister?
Well, visa restrictions, because you have to understand that the world is one global village. People travel for business, people travel for leisure, and the thing is, most of these people who are the architects of the war, the machinations of war in the southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon, these people have they have a wide span of travel. They can go places, they can do things outside of Cameroon where they are in their comfort zone. So a visa restriction would limit them to where they are, and they cannot travel. And some people would say, but you know, they cannot travel to the United States, but there are other parts of the world where they can travel. But again, this was a first step, and you have to understand that, as I told you, the world is a global village. And you know, when America talks about itself and its partners, you have to understand what that means, because even if you're traveling to France, if you're traveling to the United Kingdom or other parts of the world, and the American government says this person is under sanctions, you cannot travel to they cannot travel to your country. So that's what it is. But again, visa sanctions, I think, again, as I said, or as the representative, Mr. H said, it's a first step, you know, in support of Antony Blinken, who is the Secretary of the State here in the United States, because the person who introduced this particular visa restriction, he's a senator from the great state of Idaho here in the United States. You know, it's a first step, and we see where it goes. It might go beyond that. Again, we just have to wait and see.
Barrister,
the reach of that particular sanction.
Barrister, who are the targets? Who are the targets to these restrictions? Because
again, you have to understand that
We've seen
the target.
We've seen celebrations on both camps, government side and the separatists. So who are the targets or the main targets?
Well, I am pretty sure that the State Department will draw a list. They will come out with a comprehensive list of people who they are targeting. But you have to understand that, you know, there are state and non-state actors in this particular conflict. Of course, the state actors, we know them. There are lots of them there because they're part of the government. And even those that are not even part of the government, they function, they've been deputized by the government to do what they're doing, to commit all the atrocities. You know, they are part of all this conglomerate of people that have been targeted for these sanctions. So again, to cite specific individuals, I cannot because I'm not privy to that list. But from past experiences in other countries, we know the type of people that they target. They're mostly government officials and those who work on behalf of the government. On the other side, when you call them separatists, I call them something different, assertionists. You know, it just depends where you draw the line to target people, because there is something called, you have to defend yourself. You have to self-defend yourself. If there is a point where you've been attacked, or if there is a point where you find yourself in a very dangerous situation, what do you expect? You have to defend yourself. So if that's what it is, then we have to, because this conflict, we know where it began. We know when it started. You know, non-state actors did not declare war on the government. Non-state actors did not take up arms against the government. Non-state actors were protesting in peaceful manifestations. We know we know the history of all this stuff. But what did government do? Rather than peacefully resolve this issue, which has transcended into 5 years now and counting, you know, they resorted to violence. You know, state has, you know, they believe they have the monopoly for violence. And of course, if you attack somebody, it's a proportionate, whether it's a proportionate or disproportionate response to force. That's what has happened in the Cameroons, and we deplore that situation, and we hope it never got to this point. Oh. And again, it's something that once you trigger it, we don't know where to stop it.
Okay, but Barrister, you may want to agree with me that government officials they are acting on government policies. Don't you think it's wrong for the United States government to target these people on government camps, rather than they should have been targeting the entire government, not certain individuals who are just acting on government policies?
Well, that is true. You are true to an extent. But again, you have to understand that yes, government crafts the laws. Yes, government lays down the policies. But there's certain people who execute these policies, and there's certain people who carry on the agenda of the government. Whether you carry it to the level at which you're supposed to do it, that's different. You understand? Because those who are engaged in this particular war, those who go to the war front and they do extrajudicial killing, you know, they're not fighting the war based on the Geneva Convention. Those are things that they see. If you go around looting and burning villages, that is something that the outside world sees. You think those images don't come out? You know, we are in a different era. In the past, you could couch these things and nobody sees them, but today they have been seen. Moment as they're happening, we see them on social media, so it is not something you can hide. So if you're not executing the war, a war that you were not even supposed to start in the first place, you know, if you're executing that war in violation of all international norms and treaties, then again, you cannot hold the entire government, you know, responsible. That the war was declared, that's something that has to be debated on at another level. You know, the government has the right to do whatever they want to do, but you know, the right to declare war on the people, it's something that any leader should absolutely think twice before you do that, because that would be something that will be written on your epitaph. Okay. You know, no matter what you do after that.
Okay, Barrister, don't you think that if these people in the government are finally targeted, it can lead to a diplomatic incident between the United States of America and Cameroon?
Well, when you say there will be a diplomatic situation between the United States and Cameroon, well, that is true. You know, again, if you understand the way world diplomacy works, Cameroon is not really being run by that government, the people that you see in power. Cameroon is being run by multilateral corporations. You know, if there is a book by Professor Sheldon Wallen, inverted totalitarianism or democracy incorporated. So what runs Cameroon? They are just those multinational corporations which have their riches in the West. You understand? So if you want to reciprocate what the American government is doing, you're at a loss because you need them. The way you have put yourself in front of the West, you need them more than they need you. So if they slap sanctions on you, if you restrict them from not coming to your own country, in the end you're the one losing because the way you had exposed yourself. And this is the problem with the type of democracies that we build in Africa. You know, you're subservient to the West. Everything that they tell you you do, you write laws to benefit all these multilateral corporations. And if it comes to a point where you can no longer be subservient to them, they cut off the resources that been supporting you. Because if you look at the ammunitions coming to the Cameroons, you know, Cameroon does not own a gun factory. Cameroon does not produce cartridges.
But they buy. There's a budget. There's a budget for that, for the Ministry of Defense of the country. There's a budget voted by the parliament, so they buy.
I understand there is a budget for that. There is a budget for that. But again, where are the resources coming from? Where is the money coming from? Cameroon does not mint its money. Cameroon's money is being minted in another country. Unfortunately, you understand. So if they stop the flow of money, or if they stop the flow of these contracts that you sign with multilateral corporations, where would you get the money to fuel this war in the Cameroons? So those are other things that they can do. So if you want to stop them from not coming to your country, they will say, okay, we'll stop doing business with you. And it is based on the way you had written this contract with these people. And in the end, you know, you stand the loser. And that's the problem with all this stuff.
But Barrister, you might be wondering, like myself, sitting here, why is it that is the U.S. alone fronting for the peaceful resolution of the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, while meanwhile you have other strategic allies of Cameroon like France, the European Union, Britain, and Germany? They are behaving as if nothing is happening in the two English-speaking regions of the country. Why is that?
Well, you have to understand that America is like a moral beacon of the world, and French interest in Cameroon itself, from colonialism to where we are today, it's something that is so entrenched. They don't want to let it go, and they would not, because again, the English-speaking part of Cameroon was never colonized by the French. So the only way that they can extend their reach to that place is through assimilation, and which did not work, and then decided to bring a war. And this has been foiled by the agents of the French corporations and the French government. So if America is the only one seeing it, it is because the American reach in the Cameroons is not as invasive as that of the French government or other European countries. Because in the middle of the war, you saw British corporations busy signing contracts with the government of Cameroon. So why do you think they're signing this contract? And they're signing them at a very, very low bargain, because they know the Cameroon government needs them. Absolutely, they'd use this money to, to fuel this war, or to sustain its government and its resources in the country. You understand? So if it is just America doing, history has shown us that where America leads, things are different, and where America stays backwards, things go into disrepute. So that's why you see them. They're the only ones seeing it. Of course, the French know, the British they know, but it doesn't really matter. You can slaughter yourselves into disrepute. They would not even care any. There is nothing they will care about that.
These strategic allies I talked about a while ago, they are members of the Security Council of the United Nations organization, or the UN. And does that explain the reasons why we've never had the Anglophone crisis discussed by the UN Security Council? We've had only informal meetings tabled by people who are advocating for the rights of the people living in the two English-speaking regions of the country. Are they the ones blocking the UN Security Council from discussing the Anglophone problem?
Well, Well, you can say that, and I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt what you're saying, and there is every reason for me to believe that, there is a power there, that's stopping these things being tabled as, as a, something debatable in front of the Security Council. But again, I always come back to look at the premise of all this stuff. In Cameroon itself, Cameroon has a parliament, which is a governing body. They have never by themselves tabled a motion, to debate the issue about the Anglophone crisis or the issue with the Southern Cameroons. So if you cannot clean the speck out of your eye, you don't want somebody else to do it. If you decide not to debate it, then somebody will not do it. You understand? So we cannot always sit and think that these things will be debated in foreign parliament or foreign assemblies and impose it on the Cameroons. That is where we've gone wrong. And by the time you realize it, the revolution is gone. You wake up and you still stand up again with the same people.
Who is to blame, Barrister? Is it the politicians who are not doing enough on the ground to make sure that they get the majority in parliament? Because in parliament you have only CPDM, when they decide, they have decided. There's nothing the opposition can do about it.
Well, I don't know about the composition of the parliament in Cameroon, but I will tell you one thing about there is this story about the American Revolution, and it is being penned by Ivan Washington about Rip Van Winkle, who slept for 20 years. So he at the start of the revolution, he went up to the mountaintop to take a nap. That nap ended into a slumber. By the time he was about to take that nap, there was a signpost, and the picture there was the King of England, George Washington. King George, I beg your pardon. And when he woke up when he slept, he overslept. And when he woke up 20 years later, he looked at that signpost, and the person he saw there was George Washington, the first president of the United States. So he slept through the revolution for 20 years. You understand? Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because whether it is CPDM, whether it's whatever party you're talking about in the Cameroons, you understand? You are Cameroonians. These people are Africans. You have to cater for the interests of your people and not the interests of the West. If they are majority in that parliament, why do they really think that killing other people is not an affront to human progress? It's not an affront to justice. You understand? Because if all you seek in this world is power and privilege and not justice and truth, you end up where you are. Because again, that's the history that will be written of Cameroon, decades and centuries to come. Whether these people are CPDM or whatever they are, it is still the same. You cannot let yourself be blighted by the West. You cannot let yourself to be assimilated and killed by the West, because again, these are people that they don't really care about you. We live in this society. We know how it operates. I don't have absolutely any issue with the West. But again, they cater for their interest. Why not cater for your own interest as Cameroonians? You take it from them and you slaughter your own people, and they call us savages. That's what they say. And you sit there and you applaud it. You say, okay, I am CPDM. What are you doing as a political party? Are you moving that country ahead, or you're regressing it? Of course, it has regressed, because growing up in the Cameroons, or growing up in my village in Santa, that was not the city, that was not the country that I knew. It has retrogressed, and it is only going backwards. And I bet you by the time the CPDM itself, at some point, they will devour themselves, because again, as I said at one point, those are the end stages of capitalism or this type of dictatorship. They start to devour themselves, the institutions themselves, because, okay, if they conquer the other side, what makes you think that in the end they will not end fight and there is an implosion in that particular country, where they themselves, the institutions that they created, start devouring each other? Yes.
Okay. Barrister, this other question, why is it that the government of Cameroon calls these people in the northwest and southwest who have picked up arms as terrorists, but the U.S. government and the international community insist on dialogue? Is it time for the government of Cameroon to reconsider using the appellation terrorists?
Well, again,
who is a terrorist? Who is a terrorist? Who is a terrorist? Let's start from there. Who is a terrorist?
It depends who defines the word terrorist. It depends who decides to coin that word. because if you call me if you call me a terrorist, I might turn around call you a terrorist also, because again, if you made violence to become a catharsis in a society, if you've made violence to be the modus operandi in a society, what do you expect? If society has degenerated, if you read about suicide by the French writer Emile Durkheim, he talked about the anatomy of society, where every strand of society, every strain of society is intermingled with each other. And when it comes to a point where that particular society can no longer function because a particular, symbol or part of that society is corrupt, or it is inept, there is lawlessness, then what happens is people start committing suicide, people die. And how the society itself devolves, they start, the society, degenerates into war or into violence, and that's what is happening there. So if it gets to that point, if you call the population that they are terrorists because you've put them in that particular situation, they can turn around and equally call you, the government, that you are the ones that are terrorists. Because if you write laws that are not democratic, if you write laws that do not give you free speech in your society, if you write laws that are oppressive, if you write military laws, laws of, that belong in the military tribunals to met them on civilians, what do you expect? The other people will resist, and once they resist, you call them terrorists. But it is the laws that you wrote, the ordinances that you signed, and all those things. That is what it is. So you can call someone a terrorist, and that person can turn around, call you a terrorist, because
So the definition is not conventional. There is no standard definition for who is a terrorist. For a terrorist,
again, a terrorist is somebody who uses terror, who uses violence, to achieve a purpose. And again, that's what I told you.
Okay.
If you do it that way, what makes you not to think that if you do use it on me, I can equally use it on you? So at that point, who is that terrorist right now? Or put it this way, if you see what's happening in the Sahel, you peacefully stay. Or let me not even go to the Sahel. Let me look at the economic part between the French-speaking African countries, and the French and the Francophonie. The book, the official bulletin, the thing called OHADA, the economic treaty called OHADA. If you look in the preamble of that particular law, or I think it's Article 7, Title 7 of that particular law.
Yes.
Which gives the government, or which gives OHADA absolute immunity, its officials, everything within Cameroon, absolute immunity. Even if their corporations commit any act in Cameroon,
they will not be liable.
Is a human being.
They will not be liable.
They are not liable. You understand? So if they do things like that, then if you go to France, you do the same, and they call you that you're violating the laws. At that point, who is oppressive? Is it the OHADA people in Africa, or you in a French enclave in Paris? So it depends who write the laws, and you call them terrorists. So if you decide that these laws are egregious, they are beyond human coexistence. Now they call you that, they say you are a terrorist, but you're only reacting to what they've meted on you.
Okay.
So if that's what you define as terrorism, then it's far-fetched. We don't know who's going to win.
Okay, let's continue talking about this issue of U.S. calling for dialogue for both parties, and the United States, according to my own thought, cannot be calling for dialogue or negotiation with terrorists to the point where they consider targeted sanctions on this on certain individuals who are involved in the ongoing conflict. Does that mean that the government of Cameroon doesn't have a proper understanding of who they are dealing with, Barrister?
Well, again, if the United States is saying that both parties, both sides, they should tamper down what they're trying to do. Both sides, they've violated international norms. We don't know who they're talking about. If you have to understand that Cameroon has a conventional military. Cameroon has, conventional laws, the laws and things that they have that, make them, actors in the international community. Somebody in Muyuka, somebody in Batoke, somebody in Alabukam, or somebody in Indu who just gets off and, picks up a machete and kills somebody. You may never know who that person is. You understand? You may never know who that person is. Yes, there is terror being created within the population by those people, by those actors. But these are non-state actors, and it's difficult to really define who they are. It's difficult. Maybe the government knows, maybe the United States government knows some of the people, and well, they might be held accountable.
Some of those people,
there may be a reason.
Some of those people are known. They brandish their activities on the social media. We see them every day on the social media. Is it no kind of hypocrisy on the part of the United States of America, harboring those who are perpetrating the violence in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and at the same time calling for dialogue?
Well, the thing is, again, as I said, they've said people who are hampering, a peaceful negotiation or solution to this particular issue. You understand? The government at some point, I think that was last year, they made the bravado that they go into the grand national dialogue, and they were going to get this thing resolved. They invited certain people. So the government, they waited and they realized that, it was all a farce. It wasn't inclusive. Look, you have to engage with whoever you think is your enemy. If you only think that a solution is going to be based on the people you agree with, then there will never be a solution in that particular conflict.
And even when your enemy does not want to see reasons with you or compromise certain opinions they hold very dearly.
Well, again, you have to, people have their grounds where they stand on. You stand on one side, I stand on one side. That's my position. We have to come to an agreement somewhere. But you cannot stand on the left and I stand on the right and you tell me that you have to come and meet me here, or you have to come and meet me here. The history of Cameroon, if you understand the history of Cameroon, which is where all these problems is coming from, if it was properly told to the people or properly taught, we would know where we are, where we failed, and where we can come together. But you cannot stand somewhere and you brandish all the wealth and all the ammunition and everything and tell me that I have to come to you. Or you stand somewhere outside of the Cameroons and you're doing every other stuff, telling people that, again, Mr. Kingsley, Mr. Lasha, this is a conflict between people who live in a particular, enclave. This is not an issue this is not a United States issue, a French issue. It's an issue about Africans. How do we find a solution to our own problems?
Exactly. That's my last question to you. That's my last question.
Yes, sir.
Where do we go from here?
Yes, sir. You cannot sit on a high horse and always think that you are there and you're reproachable. Nobody can come to you. No, that's not how diplomacy functions. That's not how society functions. At a certain point, we have to come together. We have to talk as one person. We have to see each other as human, because Saint Augustine had a daughter, two twin daughters. Hope has two twin daughters. Anger and what to do with anger and what is happening and what solution you can find to that anger. You understand? So that's where we are. That's where we find ourselves. If we cannot look into the eye and see each other as brothers and sisters and look into where we went wrong, even if it means that we can no longer live together because of the circumstances, so be it. Let's talk about it. You cannot just sit somewhere and say, okay, no, the state is me, and you cannot listen. I mean, you have to listen to what I'm saying. That's not where we are. I mean, that's where we are, but that's not where we are going to go from where we are right now, because, you know, the ball has started rolling, and it will be difficult to hold it. I wish we could. We should not be inviting the international community to come decide what we can decide by ourselves.
But
you know, that land is
has
our
the
land.
international
That land is not a land for the white man.
Has the international community ever solved a problem in the world, a conflict? If we are inviting them to come to Cameroon, have they ever peacefully resolved a conflict in the world?
That's why I'm saying that, you know, you cannot wait for them, because they're coming at a, you know, at a price tag. You know, you have to pay for them to come, and they're coming at a price tag, and there is an interest. They're coming to represent their interest, and of course, in the end, you know, the government of Cameroon cannot sit with the government of the United States and decide. No, the government of Cameroon has to sit with its citizens, choose the right people. The problem is we speak to the wrong people. We choose the wrong people and engage them in dialogue. That is not dialogue. They know who the people are. I think the government of Cameroon knows exactly where to go and who to talk to. But if they can unshroud from their eyes, you know, that issue of despair, that society has gotten into a point of despair, and look into, you know, and look into the humanness, the humanity of the Cameroonian people, they may come to a conclusion that the best way for us to do this is to talk to any other person unconditionally, you know, without giving them any, telling them that we want you to say things this way or say things the other way. Talk as brothers and sisters and come to a conclusion. If it means you stay together, you stay together. If it means you can depart, you depart, because they have lived apart for a long time.
Okay.
You know? So why can they not revisit that? You just looked at Joe Biden was in England. You know, they re-signed the Atlantic Charter between the UK. They re-signed that.
Okay.
So why can't you sit with your own brothers and redo all this stuff again all over?
Okay, thank you so much, Barrister Aneneba Innocent Akufo. You were joining us this day from New York, and we were pleased, it was a pleasure for us to have you on this edition of the program. It was our very first time to be on our show, and of course on our platform, My Media Prime Television. Thank you so much, sir.
It was a pleasure, sir.